Welcome to the Growlers and Gremlins podcast, an alcoholic adventure in cryptids, paranormal, and the occult. Coming to you weekly from the heartland of America.
Welcome to Growlers and Gremlins. This is your favorite host, John.
Jason, your analyst.
And I'm Brian, that guy who doesn't know how to pronounce his title.
All right. This month, we have our beer of the month still, which is Sweet Baby Jesus, which is from Duclaw Brewing Company in Baltimore, Maryland. It's a chocolate peanut butter porter. It is a classic porter with heavenly aromas and flavors of roasted malt, chocolate, and rich peanut butter with smooth, dry finish. One sip and you will exclaim the name, Sweet Baby Jesus.
All right, John. This would normally be the guest episode, but since we're starting this off with just the three of us, what do you have for us today?
So we're going to talk about something that happened in Aurora, Texas in 1897.
Oh boy, Texas.
So, here is an article from the local newspaper from April 17th, 1897, which I'm going to read to you.
Out loud?
Yes. Out loud, Brian, or aloud.
I think Brian is trying to get revenge for episode 3.
Episode 3 is fun. Go listen to it if you haven't.
So, about 6 o'clock this morning, the early risers of Aurora were astonished at the sudden appearance of the airship which has been sailing through the country. It was traveling due north and much nearer the Earth than ever before.
Really?
Evidently, some of the machinery was out of order, for it was making a speed of only 10 or 12 miles an hour and gradually settling toward the Earth.
But John, who knew what a mile per hour was before the invention of the Ford?
What? It sailed directly over the public square, and when it reached the north part of town, collided with the tower of Judge Proctor's windmill, and went to pieces with a terrific explosion, scattering debris over several acres of ground, wrecking the windmill and water tank, and destroying the judge's flower garden.
Oh my God, the tulips.
The pilot of the ship is supposed to have been the only one on board, and while his remains are badly disfigured, enough of the original has been picked up to show that he was not an inhabitant of this world.
Oh my God.
Mr. T.J. Weems, the United States Signal Service officer at this place and an authority on astronomy, gives it as his opinion that he was a native of the planet Mars. Papers found on his person, evidently the record of his travels, are written in some unknown hieroglyphics and cannot be deciphered. The ship was too badly wrecked to form any conclusion as to its construction or motive power. It is built of an unknown metal, resembling somewhat a mixture of aluminum and silver. It must have weighed several tons.
Holy shit.
The town is full of people today who are viewing the wreck and gathering specimens of the strange metal from the debris. The pilot's funeral will take place at noon tomorrow. That's the end of the news article.
From 1897.
Now, supposedly, they really did hold this public funeral for this horribly disfigured, not-of-this-world inhabitant. The body was then buried at a cemetery at a nearby church.
Okay.
With a grave that had, if I remember right, the picture was of just like a little flying saucer on the gravestone engraved. And there it sat. That was it. That was the event. It happened, and the town moved on. So years later, this story had resurfaced, and in 1976, people from MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, decided to go investigate. And they brought metal detectors, and they went over the grave, and they found anomalies in the ground. And they thought, well, there's obviously something buried here. Let's see if we can figure out what's down here. Maybe there really is proof of extraterrestrials down here. So they put in a request to exhume the grave.
Yeah.
Well, the grave being on church property, the church denied their request. They went back the next day, and the anomalies were gone from their metal detector. Somebody had exhumed the grave.
Oh, really?
those men in black again, isn't it?
So
Those damn
the
Catholics.
question is, was there really something buried there that had been sort of forgotten? But then MUFON brought it to their attention again, and they thought, oh no, we need to get this out of there. We have to keep this covered up. Or was this something else?
Are you telling me the Catholic Church has proof?
I don't know that it was a Catholic church.
I don't know. It's Texas, I have to assume. But I like the joke.
Well, if you have to assume, if it's Texas, let's assume maybe a Baptist church.
Baptist,
I don't know,
Catholic,
though. I don't know
who
the
cares?
demographics religiously of Texas, but I would assume Southern.
I like the idea that the Pope knows that there's aliens.
Well, that's a whole other episode.
That is a whole other episode.
We can talk about the Vatican one of these
Freaking
days.
Italians.
But
Nothing against you Italians. I'll give you that.
was there something there? Did the people from MUFON just make this up? That they found anomalies in the ground and then they were gone?
I mean, what would be the motivation to hide what was in that grave? Like, why would they want to hide it?
Well, it just comes from the idea that the government has been covering up UFOs and crashes since the beginning of all this.
So the government knew enough about this that they were okay to leave it there until someone came and asked about it.
Until somebody
The idea
really
is
came
that
looking for
the
it.
first prominent UFO crash that I know of would be Roswell in 1947. That one, the government swooped in immediately and took everything away.
Right.
Let's say the event in 1897, it was just in the local paper. Maybe there wasn't enough known about it. But in a more modern time, like 1976, an actual request being filed to exhume that grave brought it to the government's attention. Because while that was on church property, likely that permit had to be filed through some sort of municipal government.
Yeah, but we're also talking pre-internet, how would they have gotten this information quick enough to come and exhume
Local
it
government.
the
I
next
don't
day?
know. But that just really is the question of why in 1897 was there a news article run
I mean,
that this thing crashed and there was a being of,
Non-human.
they claimed of Mars, and they held a public funeral
Right.
maybe they felt it
where
deserved
people could see the
respect.
remains of this body.
But then,
I mean, what
was
would be the
only local.
reasoning for even running the article if it was all just a hoax?
Maybe maybe the community was large and far-reaching, and it was only still like 100 couple hundred, and they were like, "Hey, this whatever the hell died. Let's hold it a vigil."
The strangest thing to me about the article is they pointed out the fact that it destroyed Judge Proctor's garden.
Yeah.
So what year was this again?
1897.
Sorry. Yeah.
So, I mean, there are other, H.G. Wells was already a prominent writer at that point. You have The Time Machine, The Invisible Man, The Island of Dr. Monroe. You have science fiction writings already at this time that could have inspired, either a town-wide hoax or, even just, spark the imaginations of a few that, trick the masses.
Yeah. Maybe somebody not discovered, but built a flying machine.
There are actually...
Or built a crashed flying machine.
Yeah.
There are
It flew for a
actually
little while.
a lot of supposed sightings of UFOs and strange activity in the Old West. And
Damn you, cowboys and aliens.
one of the strangest things is...
Damn you!
One of the strangest things is that people in the Old West were very literate and very well read because there was nothing else to do.
Besides read and get educated.
Yeah, and H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, science fiction was very popular at the time.
It was a new and expansive territory.
This was part of their thinking that, this stuff could be out there somewhere. They supposedly had an expert come in and say, oh, well, this is a being of Mars.
Mm.
And there was an author by the name of Ambrose Bierce. And Ambrose Bierce wrote a story. I can't remember the title of it, but it was about somebody who just walked off into a field and then just vanished.
Only to come back to play baseball.
No.
In 1967.
They vanished.
Sorry if I don't remember what the fuck the Field Dreams was put out at.
This person in the story, they vanished, and yet their wife, who was obviously still there, left behind, could still hear their voice sometimes. And
like in her head or just around her?
I don't know.
There wasn't
the specifics of how she heard it. It was just in the story that she could hear his voice.
Okay.
Ambrose Bierce then disappeared.
Like black bag or just...
Nobody knows what happened to
him.
He just disappeared one day. Never to be seen again. So there's theories out there, there's ideas that maybe he actually had been in contact with something. Maybe all these sightings in the Old West were true. Maybe he'd come into contact with something and he had traveled somewhere else with them. There are Native American tribes in the Southwest that believe that there's a certain cave, and I can't remember where it is, but they believe that it is a portal to another world. And this was very near to where Ambrose Bierce lived. And some people believe that possibly he found a way to travel to that other universe. Never to be seen again.
But not to be that guy, in episode 1, you said there wasn't aliens. That it's just us that traveled back.
Nothing I say is canonical.
Okay, then.
Oh, boy. Strap in for this fucking roller coaster ride.
There is no canon here.
Canon is for losers.
Listen, I don't believe anything I say.
We are here only for hypotheticals and bullshit.
But my thinking of it is that we generally look at history as very serious, you know.
Do we?
But we look at today's society and we see people all the time just making stuff up. There's trolls. I mean, just, you know, nonsense all the time. There's all kinds of hoaxes. So why is it that we should believe that this news article and this funeral wasn't just a setup? Maybe it was just trolls back in 1897. Just a group of guys were like, hey, this would be really funny. And they had this article written up in the paper, held a funeral with a fake body.
It is a funny thing to think
and got the whole town to believe it. And it was just a joke they took to their graves.
Yeah, one of the things that like stuck out to me is you said he had a piece of paper on his body. The extraterrestrial.
No.
Yeah, you said it was markings and hieroglyphics chronicling its journey across the space.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did.
Are you sure that wasn't on the ship?
You said it was on his person.
Hang on a minute.
I would like to remind all of you that I am very inebriated.
Yeah, papers found on his person. Evidently a record of his travels.
So,
it's in the news article.
So we're to believe that not only is there, you know, other humanoid
intelligent beings,
but they came to the same solution for, you know, paper.
That's what my question was. If you can travel through space and get to another planet, why are you recording your logs on paper?
This sounds like somebody that took a test flight on the...
Where are those papers now?
No, because you know, we all know this already. You have one set of logs that are, you know, what you actually get paid off of, and a second set of logs in case you get pulled over that shows, you know, you took your rests and everything.
That is true. Dual logbooks. It's very common in trucking.
Yes.
So, who knows? Maybe he worked for some sort of space fleet.
Thank you, Joe, for instilling that wisdom in us.
He had a job to do.
And he fell asleep at the wheel. Thus, the lawsuit cannot be filed against his Martian trucker buddies.
But generally, the log that shows that you took your rests is the paper log.
Yeah, so
because
they
you
found
can't
his
lie
fake log.
on a digital log.
Right.
Well, maybe, but they couldn't read it.
All right, well, yeah.
I'm going to say, would they know a paper log from a digital log and alien bullshit? Who knows what it could have been made out of?
I don't know. But it's just an interesting time period. I mean, out in the Old West, it was a new land. And, I mean, just the idea of seeing an airship in 1897.
At best they would have had air balloons.
Yeah.
Or hot air balloons.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it crashed with an explosion, which an air balloon would not.
No. I guess.
Well,
No, because air balloons are just hot air. That's all.
But you have something like
it's just like a propane tank.
Yeah, but what would it have been back then?
Hot air.
I would guess some sort of pitch in like a metal basket that they would then light on fire.
That makes sense.
I don't know. I don't know the science of hot air balloons. I don't know when compressed gases became a thing. When did they start doing propane tanks?
Yeah, probably.
It could have even been that they did have propane tanks. But the thing is, even if you had a propane tank, an impact with something like a water tower would not cause an explosion.
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions here because, if it is a hoax, there's two options. It's either, if it is a hoax, they very elaborately hoaxed the entire town, or the entire town is in on the hoax. I guess.
Tourism dollars?
Is there tourism dollars when everyone's traveling by wagon train?
In 1897, I don't know.
Industrial gas with compressed air invented 1844.
Whoa, okay. So hot air balloons with propane tanks.
Could have been.
Likely.
A very real thing.
A compressed gas.
A compressed gas that is flammable.
So there's a possibility of explosion, but then again...
But, I mean, you'd have to hit that tank so hard, and a hot air balloon just doesn't seem to have the velocity to really rupture a compressed gas tank.
What if it was falling? It was descending without...
Like a hole in the balloon?
I mean, it would have had to have been a pretty serious hole, because even with a hole in it, it would act like a parachute, because hot air balloons do have a hole in the top.
True.
Oh, no.
I'm starting to lean towards the idea that it was a town-wide hoax.
The town needed something to be put on the map.
I mean, does it even take a whole town? In a time when all news is just the newspaper and reporters don't know any better than just whatever you tell them happened.
We have to...
It could be that Judge Proctor got drunk, did something to collapse his water tower, wrecked his garden, and then said, no, it was aliens.
He drove his Model T recklessly at 5 miles an hour into the side of his water tower.
And the interesting thing is that there are no photos in the news article. And you would think something like that would be front page news.
I said,
it's just a small article in their paper about basically what happened to Judge Proctor's garden.
What month and what day was this? Are we like...
This was April 17th.
1897.
So
we just falling for some like late April Fool's joke?
I don't know. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Why bother? Why bother with a hoax?
Maybe they need to put their town on the map. Get some love through it.
I don't think that there was any danger of not being on the map in that time period.
In Aurora?
How many towns were there?
Aurora, Texas in 1897? Honestly, I'm going to say I don't know. Because I'm not a geologist.
Yes, geologists make the maps. Keep that on the record.
The hell up. I'm not a cartographer. I don't know the ways of the moving road that is the cattle train. Maybe it was a small town. Maybe it was a stop town for pony riders, for mail. Who knows? Highway didn't exist then. It could have been on the north end of Texas. It could have been on the south end. I don't know.
I mean, that's a quick Google map.
Yeah, I guess that brings into question, where is Aurora, Texas? I believe it's on the east end of Texas, but I could be entirely wrong.
I'm going to say, if it's on the east end, that means it's near Louisiana. Which means it's just a little bit of ways off of a major city at any point.
Funny to think that I didn't bother to map Aurora, Texas ahead of time. But Aurora, Texas is actually a suburb of Dallas-Fort Worth.
So it's in the middle of Texas?
No. It's north. It's not in the
you said it's
east.
A suburb of Dallas, which means it's relatively in the middle of Texas.
Well, relatively in the middle of Texas would be Austin.
Whatever.
But
Dallas and Austin.
Yeah, it's northwest of Fort Worth.
Yeah, so it's pretty much in the middle of Texas, which means it's a trek through town for anybody looking to head west. Maybe they needed something to bring people in. Hey, we want to expand our town. We got a couple people. Hey, an airship crashed.
But then again, that would have been like local newspaper, right? And you said there was no other newspapers reporting it.
No, just the Aurora,
so
Texas.
it wouldn't have reached the other people that would be pulled in by
But in 1897, what was the main course of spreading it? It was word of mouth.
Long term, maybe
word
it would have
mouth.
reached.
It would have been like, hey, Aurora, Texas had a thing that happened with this, and you should come see it.
Yeah, we've got a grave.
We got a grave. We got a water tower that's broken. Maybe we broke it. Who knows? We were drunk. We don't remember. Well, we're going to say the alien broke it.
If we take Occam's razor to this, the simplest solution is often the correct one. Simpler is it's just a prank and not someone flew across,
a bunch of hillbillies got drunk and accidentally
someone flew
blew
across the galaxy to crash in Aurora, Texas.
Into a water tower.
And ruin a prize.
And the interesting thing is that they say that the airship that has been traveling across the country, well, we don't have other documented sightings of this, so why would they say that it has been traveling across the country? As if you know what airship they're talking about.
True.
Baton Rouge, we ain't seen nothing.
And that's the other thing.
How about you? How about you, Georgia, Atlanta? We ain't seen nothing either.
If you have something this crazy happen in a small town back then, it could be that no one in town owns a camera.
True.
But we did have photography back then.
Yes.
Right.
So,
well, you weren't going to be able to photograph something moving.
Not moving, but the wreckage that had unidentifiable markings and things, or the body, the funeral. There is no photographs of any of it.
So I think we're just falling for, a April Fool's prank from...
April Fool's, or
took a couple weeks for the paper to release it.
Oh, was April Fool's always celebrated the same way
it's
we do
a spectacle.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a sightseeing tour. It's something like that. Hey, it's like Mammoth Caves. Hey, come look at our big fucking hole in the ground. It's really magical. It's like, that's a big fucking hole in the ground.
No.
What do you got, Aurora?
No, it's really magical.
No, John, it's a big fucking hole in the ground.
Have you ever been?
Yes.
It's really magical.
It's a hole in the ground.
Have you ever been spelunking?
Yes.
In the heart of the earth?
I have been terrified of crawling through caves, John.
Have you been to Marengo Cave?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Where is that?
St. Louis.
No.
Fuck. Okay.
I figured you were making it up.
No, I have been there because I remember the fucking name. Just because I don't remember it doesn't mean I ain't been there.
All right, tell me a little bit about Marengo.
Do you think
Cave,
I remember
Brian?
when I was like 14?
Yes, I remember when I was 14.
I don't. I remember crawling through that cave and shitting my pants because I thought the rock poking me in the back was the scariest.
Now, here's
thing.
why you're wrong. You don't crawl through Marengo Cave.
Whatever.
What makes Marengo Cave special is Marengo Cave is a cave in Indiana that was discovered by two children who first explored this cave by candlelight. The cave is a vertical cave, which is a really cool thing. So generally with a cave, you are going in and you can walk and walk and walk.
All right, John,
but
I'm going
Marengo
to tell you
Cave,
right now, just because I don't remember it correctly, I've been to just about every cave in fucking Indiana.
Because you feel the magic in that.
No, because my mom made me. Because
my mom made me too. My mom loves caves. That's why I've been.
My mom likes caves too.
There's nothing to do in the
just
Midwest.
Just because I don't have anything else to do with my time, she was like, "Let's go to a cave," and I went, "Okay, let's go to a fucking cave."
So Marengo Cave.
It was dark and cold. That's about all I remember about every cave I've ever been to.
That's essentially your entire childhood. It was dark and cold, and that's all I remember.
That's why I'm a sociopath.
We'll save that for another episode. But Marengo Cave is actually really cool because you go there, and it's essentially just a stairway deep down into the earth. They built a stairway, and you just keep walking down and down and down, and the whole cave is just a vertical.
So what you're saying is they needed something cooler than a cave, so they invented an alien visitor.
Almost. Exactly. That.
I don't know. What do you do in, a basically flat, dry portion of the world?
You make the world's largest yarn ball.
Or the biggest table.
Yeah.
Or chair.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe it was to bring people out there. To get
I'm
people
sorry,
to
Illinois. I saw that
move
on a
out there.
passing billboard that you had the world's largest chair. I think it's Illinois, at least. I don't fucking remember.
We have the world's largest paintball. Just a ball that you kept painting over and over again until it was a little giant ball of paint.
It's true. Where
Thank
is
you,
that again? I
Indiana,
don't
for
remember.
pushing our great values forward.
North Indianapolis somewhere, I thought.
Yeah, I can't remember where. But, I don't know. I mean, it could be. I mean, a lot of our touristy things in areas where they haven't built theme parks and things is just natural features like caves and things. When you go to an area where there isn't much of anything, like Aurora, Texas, or Roswell, New Mexico,
They have a
how
spot
do you
with
bring
a
people
sign.
out there? You know, Roswell, New Mexico is a town just in the middle of the desert. But what they're known for more than anything is the 1947 UFO crash.
Yep, they got a sign out there that says this is where it hit.
The entire city is themed with alien stuff. They have an annual UFO festival.
I'll give you that about Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
But Aurora, when I, did my minimal amount of research, because I wasn't sure we were actually going to do this topic or not.
I did 0.
Well,
That's a given.
and you overachieved at that. I found that the people of Aurora, Texas, actually adamantly deny these claims.
Really?
That they're
Yes.
alien.
They don't like people showing up and asking about their alien. They don't. They want to distance themselves from the story.
But did they deny it in 1897?
No, that's the difference.
It's like the Salem thing after Blair Witch. All the people of that town where they said Blair
After
Witch.
Blair Witch?
I don't think it was.
It's
You
the
mean
same.
the Salem witch trials?
No, okay, maybe I don't fucking remember. I never saw Blair Witch, but there was that town in whatever state in the eastern United States where they were like, "Oh, Blair Witch was filmed here. This is where all the shit happened," and they're like, "No, it didn't. Go the fuck away.
Okay.
Stop being on my lawn, you little piece
Again,
of shit."
I don't want to agree with Brian, but yes, it's a story after the Blair Witch movie was released.
Really?
People were going to where the movie was filmed.
Trying
Because
to find the things.
The whole point of Blair Witch was it was found footage. It was supposed to actually have happened. People went to that town expecting, some kind of experience, and the locals were absolutely driven crazy by all these people coming in.
Get the
I
fuck
wish
expecting
we
stuff.
still had that sense of wonder. That somebody could make a found film movie and people would actually believe it.
This isn't really.
Well, I mean, they built the found. They beat that genre to death. I mean,
Of course they did.
Paranormal Activity.
Are you telling me Paranormal Activity isn't real?
Yes.
I know.
Let me tell you about another movie. It was a Paranormal Activity knockoff called Paranormal Entity.
I know. We watched it together.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay, it was the first time I watched that movie. I watched it in my garage.
What the
As
fuck
one
is wrong
does.
with you?
As one does, you set up a projector and you
With
project
the
on the
garage
wall
door
inside your
open and the
garage.
black-eyed children just watching from outside.
That's another episode. But I remember I had seen Paranormal Activity and I was like, it's alright. But Paranormal Entity, something about it just freaked me out.
For all of you who haven't
And-
seen it, you should go watch it. Along with VHS and VHS 2.
I had a friend with me, and the rest of that night just went strangely after that movie.
What's it, Austin? Brad?
No, it was not. It was Evan.
Which one?
But
W or B?
B.
Oh.
So the rest of the night just went strangely. We kept hearing little sounds that would make us jumpy. And obviously, we just watched a horror movie.
The black-eyed children.
But we kept hearing these noises. We went inside, and then at one point, we heard like a bang on the door, and this was the patio door.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, there was a handprint on that door, and it was very low. Like, yeah, it creeped us out, but that doesn't.
So that
matter.
speaks to something else, that people just enjoy a scary story.
Yeah.
And what's scarier than something that, your technology of that time can't explain, like a flying UFO.
Mm-hmm.
So this could have just been a thriller for the people living in the area. Kind of like the original broadcast of
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds, where everyone believed aliens were actually invading.
Yeah.
So maybe it was just, let's spice things up for this quiet little town. Let's give somebody, give them something to, get the adrenaline going. and something they can enjoy.
Fake news to sway public opinion.
Oh, you had to go there.
The origins.
That is technically what War of the Worlds was. We got to give people excitement in their life.
Well, the radio broadcast of the book was entirely different. But
Yeah. The radio broadcast had actual,
It was just meant to be entertainment.
like,
It wasn't meant to be
tri-state
taken
areas.
and they had disclaimers in the broadcast.
Yeah.
But if you tuned in late and missed it, you wouldn't know. Like, I've listened to that broadcast before.
I think they only had like 2 in it, though.
I have that broadcast on vinyl.
Wow.
I have a copy of that broadcast from, I think, about the 1950s on vinyl.
I had it on a cassette tape, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they had
got
one
it
at
from
the
my grandma.
start, and then I took a break when they said, "Oh, we have to move away from the whatevers," and then they came back and said it, and then they just went on with their day. That's a really good thing to listen to.
Yeah,
For all of you who haven't, go back and listen to the original War of the Worlds radio play.
So, I think we all kind of agree this didn't happen.
Most likely.
More than likely, this sounds like
But-
something of an accident that took place.
The
It might not have been with a flying vehicle, just something that the windmill fell down.
Or
Let's make it
the wagon full of nitro.
Yeah, it could have been one of those.
So the question still is there. What was buried there?
The guy who was driving the wagon full of nitro,
Because,
who was so horribly dismembered.
no, because we're talking 1976.
97,
MUFON is an organization that
1897.
prides themselves in not being crazy. They try to just take documentation of UFO sightings and things like that and just keep record of it.
Right.
So they went out there to investigate, and there was something buried there.
Something metal.
But then after they requested permission to exhume the grave, they said no, and then the grave was exhumed before they came back to it. So
Was it exhumed? Because they said, did they come back into fresh dirt, or did they just come back to no anomalous readings?
They just said it had been exhumed, and there were no more anomalous readings. I don't know whether it was fresh dirt. I don't know what their indicator was that it had been exhumed. But was it just... there was just some random crap buried there, and the town wanted to just end the story for good, so they dug it up and got it away after that request came in?
It's one of life's great mysteries.
Or
isn't
is
it?
there something being covered up?
I mean, I don't know much about coffins, but would there be metal components to that?
In 1897, I really doubt it.
I mean, they would have nailed it together.
If there was something on it that stood out to them after scanning with metal detectors throughout the cemetery, obviously there was something different about
I mean, unless they're
the grave.
putting railroad spikes in this nail, I couldn't think of anything else. But 1897, you got the standard coffin maker, I would assume, in Texas.
And
Nothing.
supposedly, as of now, people don't actually know the actual site of the grave because they removed the headstone as well.
Well, goddamn. Them Texas boys are at it again. Covering up shit. Roswell, New Mexico's where it's at. Don't trust them Texans.
I like Texas.
Who doesn't like Texas? Texas is fun. I don't know
Stars
anything
at
about New
night or
Mexico, though.
Big and bright.
Got a dig for gold.
Yeah, I don't know, but I came across that story and I thought it was pretty interesting, and I don't know, wanted to see what you guys thought of it. But I guess we're kind of all in agreement.
I'm going to say
Yeah.
it really sounds like it's just hey, some crazy guy around here decided to do something crazy and try to fly, and it didn't work out well. So he got horribly mutilated, and then we said he's an alien.
No, I
When
think
was
you're
the
the
Wright
only
brothers?
one. I think he's the only one that thinks someone actually flew.
The Wright brothers?
Yeah, when was that? Google as fast as you can.
Wright brothers, Wilbur, Lauren, Otis, 1871.
No, that was when he was born.
Yeah, that was when he was born. I don't know.
Could it be,
Flight of 1909.
given the
Well,
way that the
shit.
world was at the time, that somebody actually did create some sort of aircraft before the Wright brothers.
So you're saying there's some undocumented aircraft invented far before the Wright brothers?
Not far before, about 5 years before. You said 1902?
1909.
1909. Okay,
12.
so 12 years before, 13 years before.
And it's completely undocumented. No one knows anything about this flight.
Think about the way the news traveled back then.
We
Word
still
of mouth,
found out about the Wright
paper,
brothers.
telegraph.
It says the Wright brothers took video.
Yeah, the Wright brothers. But that was all in America.
So was
What if somebody else in another country had created something that could fly?
Transatlantic flights were like years and years away from the Wright brothers.
I would say decades.
Who said transatlantic?
He brought it up and just built it here.
Someone flew down from Canada or up from Mexico?
Or South America? Who knows?
They were running cocaine before we even knew it. God damn it.
But I mean, really, who knows? You know, the news would have traveled very slowly. And
I'm going to assume, like many other things in history, there were multiple people working on things at the same time.
well, people have been working on the idea of flight for way longer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like Da Vinci.
Yeah, Da Vinci had that little like pedal helicopter.
Well, he had plans for one. I don't
Yes,
know that he ever built one.
not that he ever built one, but it just shows that people have been trying.
That would not have flown anyway.
No.
People have been
Unless you're
trying
in
for a
Futurama.
long time to try and make something that would fly.
Yes.
Right. But again, Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is probably the correct one. You know, we're going to say someone somewhere figured out how to fly. It's completely undocumented, but someone did it and crashed it into Aurora, Texas, or the town had a hoax.
They hadn't accounted for the water tower and Judge Proctor's garden. Let's say this. They were flying along. Everything was going great. And they just saw the cutest garden.
And they had to crash.
It was distracting.
Straight into
And they crashed into a water tower.
Or
I mean, come on. Haven't you ever been distracted by a beautiful garden while flying overhead?
Or, let's go better yet, they were flying over Aurora, Texas, and all of a sudden, their controls didn't work no more. Because, fuck, we got a problem.
What if somebody at the newspaper had sabotaged Judge Proctor's garden and accidentally destroyed the water tower and wrote this story to cover it up?
Okay, if you really want somebody flying, what if it really was some undocumented flight? People freaked out not knowing what was like going over their town.
So they shot it down.
And they shot it down.
It could be. And then after it crashed, they felt bad because somebody
And
died.
that's why the entire town attended the funeral.
Jim Bob shot down the flying machine with his 7-day rifle that he bought from the Confederacy.
You're not talking about Tom Jim Bob, are you?
No, I'm talking about Joe Jim Bob
Ah.
of 1897.
Just
We
the
didn't
cousin.
even have...
But all pioneers in flight.
Yes.
It wasn't Jim Bob. It was Joe Bob. You guys are getting our own...
Tom Joe Bob?
Tom Joe Bob.
Nothing I say is canon.
Okay.
Whatever. Billy Bobib decided one day that he saw something flying over his cattle, and he was like, I don't like that big bird. So he shot it, and he hit Jilly Joe Bob in the chest, and he crashed it right into his water tower, and he went, oh, God, Uncle Billy Bob, I hit your garden. And then Billy Bob said, no, and he executed him on the spot and said, we got to hold a funeral. He died in the crash. And then Jillian came up and said, well, you shot that man. And he went, nah, bitch.
What if
He
it
died.
was fan fiction?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm doing right now.
What if it was just fan fiction?
I would
Published
not
in the newspaper?
good old chronological fan
Before
fiction.
found footage, there was found wreckage.
It's pretty much that's what Roswell was. You ever seen a good picture of any of that wreckage?
I actually have met...
No, you haven't. Shut up.
Actually have met Jesse Marcel Jr., who actually wrote a book on the Roswell incident. He was...
Was he there?
Yes, as a
Okay.
child.
Well,
His dad was part of...
the cleanup.
I'm going to get this wrong. It's been a while since
You're
I've
going to get
talked
this
about
very wrong.
His dad was in the military
Uh-huh.
at the time of the Roswell crash and
Uh-huh.
was a part of the cover-up.
Okay.
So Jesse Marcel Jr., he was a kid at the time. After growing up, he wrote a book talking about it. And he has a bunch of photographs of, pieces of the wreckage and things.
Did it look like Bender's ass?
But, I mean, I don't know. The guy could just be nuts. He's from Roswell. I met him in Roswell at the 65th annual Roswell UFO Festival.
You've been to Roswell?
Yes, I've been to Roswell. I went to the UFO Festival in Roswell.
When?
2008.
That was before.
Or 200007.
That was before
65.
Really
no, 60,
who took you? Your mom?
60 years? Yes, the 60th Roswell UFO Festival.
Did your mom take you?
I don't know how. What
Because she's the only
number
one I
it
can imagine would be interested in that.
My dad.
Well, how did you convince your dad to take you to that?
I wanted to go.
And he just said, "Fuck it, why not?"
Essentially.
Okay, I can get
And it was a great trip.
Did your dad enjoy it, or did you enjoy it?
I don't know.
You enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I mean, this was at the time, I was, I think, 13 or 14.
Let's say if it was 2007, and you and I are the same age, that makes us about 15.
We drove there.
Fuck that.
And we, after driving through the desert for hours and hours, come into a town, and the first thing I see is a Walmart with aliens and UFOs painted on the front of the building, and there are two men in trench coats fighting with lightsabers in front of the building.
Yeah, that's about what I'd expect from
It was
Roswell.
fantastic.
So this goes back to our theory of
Did we make up a story?
Alien crashes as publicity stunts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need people to come to our podunk little shit town in Aurora, Texas.
So
You're going to
maybe
get
Aurora,
so much hate mail from Aurora, Texas, because you keep shitting on it.
Who cares?
maybe Aurora
I'm me.
inspired Roswell.
Maybe.
Maybe they're both hoaxes.
Who knows?
And Roswell just did it right. Because, I mean, if there is one UFO crash above all UFO crashes and UFO sightings, Roswell is the one. Everybody knows Roswell.
Right.
And it has brought them quite a bit of tourism.
I don't know. The Tunguska crash. Or whatever the fuck that event was.
What?
Tunguska in Russia. Out in the Siberian wilderness. A fucking nuclear blast supposedly went off.
Oh, we could talk about the Dead Zone.
Not the Dead
But
Zone.
another episode.
This isn't Stalker. This is an actual crater.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm talking about.
You're talking about
The area surrounding it is known as the Dead Zone.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Fuck. Sorry, Stalker fans and Russians.
What is Stalker?
It's a video game.
It's about the mysterious zone outside of like civilized Russia where anomalies and bullshit happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fun. You got to look into it.
Yeah, I never heard of that. But yeah, we'll get to
Sorry,
that.
Boris, if you're listening to this, I don't mean to insult your people. Don't worry about it, John.
On that note, closing thoughts. I think we pretty much all agree.
Hoax.
Yeah. Please come to our town. We are desperate for money.
All right.
All right. Well, and with that,
All right, everybody. Well, I have been contractually obligated to say, have a good time, everybody.
that's not true.
Have a fun time, everybody.
That's not right.
I don't fucking remember.
I thought it was have a fun.
Have a fun day, everybody.
He said, "Have fun, everybody."
Have fun, everybody.
Good job, Brian.
See, the gun is to my head as we speak.